Is it okay? Good afternoon. I'm here today to announce the charges against the defendant, Anthony Gray, age 52, and his role in the death of a 15-year-old Stagg High School student. On Monday, April 18th, Stockton Unified School District Police Department and the Stockton Police Department responded to a call at Stagg High School. A 15-year-old student was on campus when they were approached by the defendant. He allegedly stabbed the victim with a knife before being taken into custody by Stockton Unified School District police officers. Today, the defendant was arraigned on the following charges. To wit, count 1, murder in the first degree, violation of Penal Code Section 187(a). Special circumstance, Penal Code Section 190.2(a)(18). To wit, torture. He also was charged with the personal use of a non-firearm, a knife, in violation of Penal Code Section 12022(b)(1). He was further charged with corporal injury to a child, violation of Penal Code Section 273(d)(a), infliction of great bodily injury and death from the personal use of a non-firearm, to wit, a knife. Also, possessing a weapon on school grounds, a misdemeanor. Defendant was remanded into custody and will return before the court of the Superior Court of San Joaquin County on May 16th, 2022 for further arraignment at 9 a.m. As a mother, this seemingly random act of violence is devastating. I send my sincerest condolences to the family on the loss of their beautiful, beautiful child. To the faculty and the staff and the students at Stagg High School for enduring such a traumatic event, our thoughts and prayers are with you as well. As a prosecutor and the elected district attorney, I am frustrated and quite frankly angry. The defendant walked onto a high school campus and allegedly committed a horrific act of violence against a child. While it is still in the early stages of the investigation, my deputy district attorneys charged this case to the full extent of the law based on the evidence provided by local law enforcement. What frustrates me is that there is a vast disparity between the commission of a crime using a firearm and a crime using a knife. As the law currently is written, a gun enhancement carries with it 10, 20 to 25 years above the charge of murder, which carries 25 to life. The use of a firearm, according to the legislation's Penal Code section, is a 1-year enhancement. That disparity is wrong, and it must be changed immediately. Anybody using a knife resulting in a great bodily injury or death of another should have the same consequences as an individual using a gun. That enhancement, that law needs to be changed now. In addition, there is not a special circumstance in the Penal Code to increase penalties for crimes committed on school campuses. How can that be? Every day, as parents, we send our children from Head Start to preschool to elementary to junior high, high school, and beyond. And on that campus, not only do we guarantee our children an education, a place to develop friendship, lasting friendships, but we also guarantee their safety. And when evil walks amongst that campus, that individual, that evil individual, must suffer the ultimate consequences. There has to be an immediate change in the law. Right now, not next year or the year after, right now. People are in Sacramento making bills as we speak. Make this bill now. Change that anybody that comes onto a school campus and kills a child automatically will be sentenced on a life without the possibility of parole, will receive a special circumstance. Ensuring our public that they will never walk amongst us, because there are some people that cannot be amongst us. but we need the laws and the tools to make sure it happens. And if this legislation does not give us the tools, does not say our children matter and that they should be protected on this campus, then they got another thing coming. Because I was there last night, and I will be there every day, until we get laws that make sure that anybody that walks onto a campus and harms our children will suffer the ultimate consequence. Enough is enough. These are our children. Protect them. Do your job. Protect them. I don't want to sit in a room like I just did a few minutes ago. I don't want this family to ever have to see what this family has gone through. No family should. But if it does happen, we better make damn sure whoever does this harm is held accountable. And we must do it now. So I ask all of you here in San Joaquin County, write your legislators, write your senator, write your assembly person, write your city council, your board of supervisors, and your congresspeople, and tell them, get the law on the books now. Do it. There's no excuse not to. I want to thank some people today, because what happened should not have happened. But they're on our front line. That's our teachers, our police department, our Stockton Unified School District Police Department, our staff and students at Stagg. They should have never had to see this. They should have never had to endure it, and they shouldn't have lost their good friend. She should be here with us today. People talk about crime. But if this legislature's, if they don't give us the tool to hold people accountable for the ultimate evil acts of killing children on a school campus, then we don't have the tools and the resources we need to hold these people fully accountable. So it's imperative that we change the knife enhancement to the same and equal terms as a gun enhancement. And it is imperative. I'm shocked across the nation that we do not have a special circumstance enhancement for the taking of a life of a child while on a campus. That has to change. And I'll tell you why. You could be two drug dealers who decide to make a deal on the street corner. And during the course of that drug deal, one decides to rob the other one. And during the course of that robbery, one is killed. That's a special circumstance. That's a killing during the commission of a robbery, resulted in a death, and that qualifies for a special circumstance. But our children don't. On a campus, they don't qualify. Change the law, change it now. I'll take any questions that you have at this time.
Troy, can you elaborate at this point on a motive or a relationship with the suspect?
There's no, I'm not going to go into any details, Kurt, but there's no relationship.
None at all?
None. None at all.
He had a rap sheet, some priors the judge mentioned that. Can you elaborate on what priors he had and what he was on probation for?
He's not in our county. He's not San Joaquin County. His crimes originated out of like Santa Clara, San Jose, and Napa. They go back a number of years to 1989, beginning in that time. That's going to be public record and listed. I have to, but he is currently not he's not under our probation terms and conditions.
Do you know what probation he was under from the other counties?
He had prior conviction for, back in 1989, for receiving stolen property, a felony in 1989, a violation of 496. In 1990, he had a violation out of, for 11351, which is the purchasing and sale of a controlled substance, narcotics, out of San Jose area as well, San Jose, Santa Clara area. He then had also a misdemeanor, 11550, which is under the influence, and as I spoke to the 11351.5. He then has, again out of the San Jose area, in 1991, a 594 vandalism, a misdemeanor, and then he has, his probation is revoked, and he goes back in on the first case that I mentioned, the 496. He then comes out and he, in 96, has some more violation of probations. He's sent back to prison, and in 98, he is convicted of a 4502 paren A, which is he's in prison in possession of a firearm, and he goes, an additional term is there. And he also has a battery on a prison guard, prison officer. He also has in 2012, he has out of the Napa area, he has a 245 A1, a misdemeanor, A4, a misdemeanor assault with force, a 243 C2, a battery against a police officer to a felony. There's 2 counts of that. He is sentenced to state prison and then released. And then and that's the most recent history we have on him. He's not from San Joaquin County. He lives in San Joaquin County now, but his past criminal history is out of county.
As a follow-up, he was on probation, the judge said, currently, from what I understand. Do you know what that was for?
We'll have, let me come back and answer that question for you.
And Tori, in looking into his background in Santa Clara County, it looks like at one point his mental health had been assessed. Is that something that you'll be doing as well? And do we know this, what led up to, the circumstances of the first inquiry of his mental health during that time in the 90s?
We're still 48 hours into this, so we're pulling all those files from our sister counties. They are providing us all the documentation from those cases. So we'll review those. We'll review his central file, his prison file. We'll review all of those documents and make a determination at that time. So those are all factors that we'll be looking at.
And then one more question. And one more question in regards to the other special circumstances he's charged with relating to planning. Could you elaborate why he is facing that specific special circumstance charge?
He's facing the special circumstance of torture, and I can't go into any more detail than that because it would be getting too case specific. By law, I'm prohibited from trying the case in the public, as you guys know. So I can't go into any further detail than that. But we do believe that we have the elements to prove torture.
Is there any indication that this man had been seen around the campus or seen around the community in the run-up to this attack?
Can't go into those kind of details at this time. All right, but I do know that he did have a job, and he was employed. He had a residence, a vehicle, and a cell phone.
Was the probation officer required to let you know he was in the county at all? And how long has he been here?
The questions in regards to his probation, I'm going to come back to, okay?
What kind of job, you don't have to get specific employer, but what type of employment?
He worked in a warehouse.
Warehouse.
Does school have cameras that actually recorded the event?
All of that evidence will be presented at the preliminary hearing.
How much will all of his past history factor into if he is convicted of his years in prison?
If convicted of the first-degree murder, it's 25 to life. If convicted of the special circumstance, it's a life without the possibility of parole. And then the gun enhancement is 1 year. The same goes for the child cruelty. It's a 25 to life case plus the special circumstance. So he's looking at life without the possibility of parole.
Do you have any message to the community after this attack that has, rocked not just parents at Stagg, but parents throughout Stockton and San Joaquin County?
As a mother, we drop our kids off at school every day, and we race back there to pick them up. And this should never happen. This should absolutely never happen. We have to do more to protect our children. So we have to look at security mechanisms within our campuses to ensure the safety and well-being of the students on campus and the faculty and staff. We have to look at the security teams that we're hiring to work on these campuses to ensure that they have the safety and wellness and training in order to prevent a crime from occurring. We have to look at bringing back, school resource officers on campus as well, increasing that opportunity to have more people on site to be a deterrent for it. We have to look at, every tool and resource we have. We take this, my office is tough on crime. They're going to hold people like this accountable to the full extent of the law. And I guarantee that to our community. There are people that cannot walk amongst us because their inability to function in a manner that is safe for others. And those people are fully held accountable in my office. We have about a 95 to 98% conviction rate. And we use every tool and resource we have. But when we have laws in place that don't protect children but protect drug dealers, then the law has gotten out of control. And so we have to change the law to ensure that any crime that occurs on a campus receives at least a 25-year enhancement above the charge that is there, or better yet, a special circumstance created for this, because we have to protect our children. But more importantly, we have to make sure it never happens. So we have to invest in resources to do intervention, prevention, mental health, substance use, things like of that nature. We have to work on healing our community, because this affects all of us, but none more so than this family. And they did not ever deserve what happened here. And so we're going to have to use every tool and resource we have. We can't rely upon old policies and procedures that failed and got us here. We're going to have to think about what we can do as an entire community. And those are, first and foremost, giving me the law and the tools to hold these people fully accountable for the rest of their lives, as well as healing. And so we're putting Victim Witness, Family Justice Center, most of our community-based and faith-based groups are over at the campus working to help. The Stockton Unified School District's done an outstanding job making sure that resources are there for the students. We've had comfort care dogs, counselors available. These are just kids. They should have just gone to school that day. It should have never happened. So there are sometimes people that are just evil that walk amongst us, and we're going to have to use every tool and resource to make sure we find them and prevent them from causing this kind of harm ever again. But if this harm occurs, I need more tools. And I'm fighting evil. I need every tool I can get. And that's what we're going to use. We're going to insist on this law. And we're not going to stop until we see it. I guarantee this community that we will fully hold this individual accountable as the law allows us to do.
Tori, let me ask you, we've seen some of those big shootings, whether attacks and shoplifting, and without is there any question
No, we have had no indication that there's any connection to any of the prior homicides that we've had. What we have seen, though, is in 2018 and 2019, by working collaboratively with peacekeepers, ceasefire, advanced peace, law enforcement, community-based and faith-based organizations, we were able to drop homicides by 40%, one of the largest in the nation, let alone in the state. And COVID came, and none of us knew, we thought this was going to be 2 weeks. It turns out being 2 years. During that time, homicides spiked in 2020, and we saw the spike not so much in organized crime, but more so in family violence. We saw 15 homicides related to family violence, child abuse type of cases. We usually average 0 to 2. 0 is the goal, obviously. So in 21, we put a lot of resources into healing families. We were in neighborhoods. We relied upon our CBOs, our faith-based, to help us with this outreach, and we dropped the homicide rate 30%. Only 2 counties in the state of California were able to do that. We were one of them. In January, our homicide rate was 50% what it was in previous years. Then February, March came, and we saw a spike. Most of it is not organized crime. Some is, and I have every tool and resource. I can use probation, parole. I can do searches. I can hit houses with search warrant SWAT. I can use all the technology and equipment I can to target. I know where Norteños and Crips and Bloods, and I know where they're at, and I know how to handle those kind of cases, and we can curve the crime back down. This kind of crime is so random, that there's no way to predict that it would occur, or to even begin to offer an explanation to you as to why it occurred. It is just senseless, it is maddening, and it is an example of some of the evil that walks amongst us. And when you encounter these people, you have to have every tool to make sure that they do not come back out into free society. And that's what I need right now. We have enough right now. We'll be able to do everything we can, but we need more. And I think it's time as a nation, we send a message to everybody out there that if you're going to come onto any campus, whether it be preschool to college, and harm a child, we are going to throw everything we can at you, including life without the possibility of parole. We need that law.
Is there anything you feel comfortable sharing about your conversation with the family?
No, that was private. But I will say this, they are brave, courageous, and they're just very brave and courageous. Very brave. Any other questions?
Initially, there were rumors that there was possibly a second girl who was also attacked in the case. Can you clear that up? Was it only the one girl who was attacked?
Based on the evidence I have right now, we're proceeding on the charges based upon our victims. So as the case develops, we can always add additional charges. But again, we're within the first 48 hours of this investigation and still doing a great deal of work on it. We have teams out there now doing interviews, and so more will come. And as it does, we'll let you know. Do you want to say anything? Okay. I think that'll be it for us today. Thank you.